Hello and a very warm welcome to another edition of Talking Germany. And my guest today is a man who runs one of Germany's most famous and storied hotels, Schloss Elmau in the Bavarian Alps. What's more, he's won this year's award as Hotelier of the Year here in Germany. And here he is in person, Dietmar Müller-Elmau. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you here. Now, our guest doesn't just know a thing or two about how to manage hotels. Dietmar Müller-Elmau is also a man of ideas, somebody who enjoys stirring up a bit of controversy and a keen conversationalist. So I'm sure we can very much look forward to hearing what he has to say about the following topics. Risen from the ruins, Schloss Elmau was ravaged by a huge blaze in 2005. It gave Dietmar Müller-Elmau the opportunity to rebuild and reinvent. Cross-border competition. Many hotels in neighbouring Austria and Switzerland are recruiting their staff from Germany. So are standards in Germany slipping as a result? And the art of stress-free living. Like many other people here in Germany, our studio guest believes yoga is one of the best ways to combat stress and heal the spirit. Dietmar Müller-Elmau, this award that you've just won, the 2012 award as the Hotelier of the Year here in Germany, it's been called the Oscar of the German hotel industry. Were you surprised to win it?
Very surprised.
Why?
Because I'm not a hotelier.
Well, what are you then?
I'm still trying to figure it out. But not a hotelier.
This fits in with this statement. You know, it's often quoted about you, the reluctant hotelier. I think that must be closer to what you're actually saying.
Reluctant? Well, I own a hotel.
You own a hotel?
I own a hotel.
You make a very nice living from a hotel, I presume.
No, I have to... not yet.
Not yet?
Maybe one day.
Okay.
So far it was mainly investment, a huge investment. But it may work.
So it's not adding up financially so far, but the industry has turned around and said, this guy is getting something very right. He's the Hotelier of the Year. What are you getting right?
Yeah, what I'm getting right, I don't think I'm getting anything right or so. It's just we're doing some things differently. Mm. And the main difference probably that we offer is food for thought in addition to just food for the body. Which I think and many people look for inspiration. That's why they travel in the first place. You don't travel to just sleep somewhere else. You want to see something else. You want to learn something else. You want to get a different experience. So it's also mental. It's not just physical. Mm-hmm.
And you know what you're talking about because you were very much you were a traveller before you were a reluctant hotelier.
Yeah, I'm still not a hotelier, but I'm sort of a reluctant guest. But we're all guests somehow in this world, and I like to be a guest, and I don't think I could live in any other place than in a hotel. Mm-hmm. So eventually, was maybe bad luck, but also maybe a necessity for me to build one eventually for myself, where I could feel comfortable.
Yep. You've not just described yourself as a reluctant hotelier, you've also described yourself as a rebel. What's all that about? What are you rebelling against?
I never called myself a rebel. It's the media that call me.
You've certainly been called a rebel.
Yeah, I never understood that word, but because I'm not going against anybody. I'm just trying to do something for myself. And that apparently in Germany is called a rebel. Just because you look for your own interest.
You're a radical individualist.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yes. Mm. And then in Germany is a rebel.
Fascinating stuff. Let's go back a little bit in time to your grandfather. Mm-hmm. He was the person who established the hotel in the first place. He effectively built the hotel. Yes. Tell us a little bit about him.
Well, he was a philosopher and a theologian, and he never wanted to build a hotel. He just built the place so that his readers could meet him and get inspiration from him. That was the idea, and he hadn't offered them any method or anything or any way how to deal with life. His idea was take a vacation from yourself, from the I. Mm-hmm. Leave your ego behind and come here, go to see nature, be inspired by the silence of nature, be inspired by the music, and then eventually found that people would still cling on to their thoughts and to the problems while they were in nature. So he offered the concerts and music and said, you have to listen to the music, so you won't listen to yourself. Then he felt that they were falling asleep and still continuing to think. So then he introduced dancing to classical music. That was maybe, as you might closest to call his method. Mm-hmm. He said, you have to watch your step. At the same time, you have to listen to the music, so you cannot sleep and you cannot think of yourself. And that was a recreational sort of offer. the spa, the mental spa, mental detox kind of thing. And that was extremely popular, and that was sort of the heart of the old Schloss Elmau.
And he got a little bit of help from a lover to build all this up.
Not really a lover.
The legend goes.
Yeah, the legend goes. It's always a good legend to say lover, but I think he had 11 children from 2 wives. The first one died, and the third child. And the lady who gave him the money, she was sort of a devotee, as you would say, maybe in Indian terminology, to him. You know, he was maybe a guru for her.
Okay.
But they had no affair or nothing. But she was a very, very rich lady. And she didn't, even when she didn't know him very well, she told him if he ever needs any support in any way for his endeavor, he should just call her. And then so he found this place, Elmau. He had been in a different castle before in northern Germany. And he was so fascinated by the location, and he called her up, would you support me? And she says, of course. And so she helped him to build the place.
Okay. One newspaper I read, one newspaper article about your grandfather and the hotel, the early history, it said he died ruined and ashamed. What was he ashamed of?
Well, I think he was ashamed of that he erred completely politically. And with the highest ideals that he had, he saw that these ideals were probably the wrong ideals. And he had always been, until 1933, sort of an opponent of Hitler. He was totally against Hitler. But then when Hitler came to power, he thought it must be God's will, because otherwise he couldn't explain it, how he could. And that's why now they would have to follow Hitler in the revolution of the common good versus the individual interest. And he was probably the only German that I know that was capable of bringing together Hitler and the Jews. He says Hitler could only succeed in this revolution with the help of the Jews because they are the better Germans. And the Nazis are terrible. Their anti-Semitism and racism is absolutely disgusting. So the Nazis wanted to take him out of business right away. But then other Nazis said, actually, it's good, because if he's for Hitler and for the Jews at the same time, it makes his support for Hitler even more valuable for us, because it's more credible, more moral credibility. And because of that error, he was sentenced after the war, because he said, you know, your support of Hitler was much more powerful than if a Nazi would have supported Hitler. That's normal. But if you're moral high, you know, on a high ground as you were, considered to support Hitler, that's unexcusable. And he felt that way too. And
he died in 1947.
49.
Yeah? In 1949, okay. 1954, I think I got that date right. Yeah,
yes,
you were born in the hotel, room number 54, I believe.
Yes,
yeah?
No longer there.
What was your earliest memory of the hotel?
So it was always for me hostile ground. It was in hostile territory.
So you fled?
I was always
as early as you could. You got
I was
away.
always fighting the castle since I was a child. My mother comes from Curacao. She was a stranger in Schloss Elmau. She was sort of an outsider. It was a very German place. And so I was taking the side of my mother, and I was constantly terrorizing the guests and the hotel staff. I was obstructing and etc. So I was never at peace with this place.
And you fled into computer science and spirituality.
No, not really.
That's not the right...
Not the right way.
Not the right order, or not the right way, not the right story.
Not quite, but I wanted to get away from it, of course, and I studied in Munich, and my father wanted me to study business administration, and I was more interested in philosophy and history, and I wanted to understand Europe better. And then we reached a compromise. I would study in America, but it's much faster to get an MBA in America than in Germany, you know, and I went to Cornell University. But business is fairly boring. I mean, you know, I rather read the newspaper and you understand how it works. You don't need to study 2 years. That's what I thought. So I spent most of my time on computers and computer science, and became a teaching assistant in computers in Cornell. And that helped me later on to start my computer company.
And make a lot of money.
You know, it's all relative, you know. If I wouldn't have
made
sold
a lot of money. Come on. It might be relative for you. It's a lot of money for me.
Yeah, you know, it's at the time it was much more than I would have ever expected to make.
I'll tell the story in a short version, because you're reluctant. You made 60 million when you sold the company.
Yeah.
You developed hotel software for the use in hotels.
Yes.
Yeah? And then you were dragged back into the family business.
Yes, to invest the money.
Screaming against it. Yeah?
Exactly, fighting.
To put your money back in.
Yes.
And now you're still trying to get a return on your investment.
Well, the problem was that I didn't you know, I did it for my father because he had supported me always, even though, you know, I never did what he wanted me to do. And but I had a bad conscience after I'd sold my company or my shares. I put part of that money into the renovation of this castle, and in order to be free from all the family squabbles and all these problems that were there, I said I will rent it, so I'm free. I can do what I want. but it caused even more fight and even more conflict in the family. It was a real cultural fight. It went up to the Supreme Court in Germany even, you know. It's really terrible. And then, anyway, then finally I finished the renovation, and then it burned down. And then I had no choice but to rebuild it from scratch. So, you know, it will take some time to recover the money which I invested.
It burnt down. It was an inferno. Yeah. And you said you're reported as saying it was like a ship going down. I was happy. I thought the more of it that burns, the better.
Yeah, but only after I knew that everybody was safe, which was after 15 minutes.
And it gave you the opportunity to reinvent the hotel?
I knew it was a great opportunity.
You had a vision? You wanted it to be a place where people got ideas, inspiration?
No, it was a place where I wanted to feel comfortable.
Okay. One way you feel comfortable is when you're listening to music, yeah?
Also,
I guess, yeah?
Yes.
He's given the people who come to the hotel the opportunity to listen to music, because the cultural calendar at Schloss Elmau includes plenty of leading performers in the fields of both classical music and jazz.
The backdrop might make you expect a different type of music. But Dietmar Müller-Elmau enjoys confounding expectations and combining traditions old and new, like hosting two jazz musicians of different generations, world-famous trombonist Niels Landgren and young German pianist Michael Wolny. Musical summits like this one in 2008 are possible only because the musicians are paid not in money, but in free food and lodging, in five-star luxury.
We can't pay the musicians. The space is too small to make it worthwhile as a business. We can only do it by persuading the artists this is an experience they shouldn't miss out on. If we do that, they'll come.
Michael Wolny and Niels Landgren didn't need much persuading. Both felt drawn to Schloss Elmau and the surrounding countryside.
Of course it has an influence on the music we play. I can't really judge how, but I'm sure everything is connected.
Location has a huge influence on music. Elmau is very special in two ways. It's like the Magic Mountain, a place of retreat, serenity, and isolation. And it also reminds me of The Shining and Overlook Hotel. Every time I come here, I think I'm in that film.
The picturesque backdrop of Schloss Elmau has inspired artists for almost 100 years, and it will certainly continue to do so.
Dietmar Müller-Elmau, I think that the comparison there between Thomas Mann's novel The Magic Mountain and the Kubrick movie The Shining, I thought it was fascinating. Which is closer to your hotel?
Neither.
I thought you'd have to say that. You had to be very careful. Yeah? Have you ever thought about inviting Stephen King and Jack Nicholson to the hotel?
I would love to, but I haven't even dreamt about it. It's beyond my reach.
I think you might get there, though. Yeah, no. You've just been telling me about some of the impressive musicians who are going to be playing at your place.
Yeah, musicians is easier.
Musicians is easier.
Yes.
Yeah. Michael Wolny, he's great, isn't he?
He's fantastic.
Yeah? I'm a big fan. Do you want to give him a quick plug? People won't have heard of him.
No, he's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Well, I think he's one of the greatest pianists in jazz today. He's a very young talent, but he's moving maturing incredibly fast, and he's coming several times a year. He's doing recordings also in Schloss Elmau. Yeah. And I think he's really at the very, very top worldwide.
Yep. It's not just music. You want the place to be a place where ideas are transported. Well, ideas are discussed.
I'm not trying to do anything for the guests. I'm trying to do it for myself. I like to get new ideas, and I'm trying to invite people that where I can learn from, and I can debate with and improve my understanding of philosophy and politics and so on and so forth. That's what I'm trying to do. But it's all open to the guests as well. So whoever wants to come goes, and if the weather is fine, they may not go, and they go swimming or whatever. I don't care. Yep. But it's for my personal interest.
It's a remarkable statement. It's a remarkable way to live a life.
Yes. Well,
I'm sure you
have to compensate
people are saying
somehow.
You're the best hotelier in Germany this year. You're certainly an extremely unusual hotelier.
Yeah, I'm not a hotelier at all. I'm just a guest. That's all.
You run a hotel. Come on, you've got to admit that much.
I don't run it. Somebody else runs it for me. I don't know how to run it.
Better still, yeah? But listen. You said, I'm quoting you again, and I want you to you face up to your own words here,
Sure.
yeah? Mr. Müller-Elmau says, my hotel has a political agenda.
Yes.
I mean, that's an extraordinary statement for somebody who, OK, you don't run the hotel, but you do it
I wanted to show that in Germany you can also have places which are civilized and not just culture.
But
you know, that's a political thing. I wanted to show that you can transform sort of a German culture and become sort of an American, Anglo-Saxon place without losing the best of what Germany has to offer. I don't see, for the Germans, culture and civilization has always been contradictory. They always see themselves as the opposition to America, as the enemies in America. It's uprooted, it's individualistic. Germany is more community, social solidarity, etc. Culture versus civilization has been always sort of a fight in the German mind. Culture is something that comes from God, comes through the person, sort of reveals itself, whereas in civilization is man-made, and that's bad, it's egoistic, that's individualistic, etc. And I said that's completely wrong. Culture is man-made. Music is man-made. It comes all from individuals. It's individualism at its best, you may even say, and it offers freedom. There's freedom, whereas normally the German culture concept doesn't offer really freedom. It means you have to be free from the I, but I wanted a place to be freedom for the I. So it's a totally different idea than from my grandfather. It's completely opposed. And it still works very well. And people see, actually, we do more concerts than we ever did before. We do about 200 concerts a year. We have lots of literature. We have lots of political events. So it is a very thriving cultural place. It's the place for the Deutsche Bildungsbürgertum per se.
Well, that's an interesting term.
And they think it's
the German obsession with education.
Absolutely. Yeah. And at the same time, it's probably the biggest provocation because it's so American.
Are you aware, you mentioned him again there, you must be aware of the extent to which you are almost some sort of reincarnation of your grandfather?
No, he's a theologian and I would be rather more a political person than... he was also political, but without wanting it to be it, unconsciously. So. No, I think it's the total opposition. He wouldn't like what I'm doing. It's sort of the end of the world. It's the man-made versus the God-made, which he felt that was the root of all the problem was individualism. People being egoistic. That's the root of the problem.
Listen, let's just go back to that statement of yours about you were standing watching the hotel burn down, and you're saying, let it burn. I mean, you're talking about philosophy here. As far as I recall, Friedrich Nietzsche, the great German philosopher, he said, you've got to destroy things to rebuild. Yeah? You sound like Friedrich Nietzsche.
No, because before I tried to fix it, I tried to renovate it, I tried to restore it the way it was. I didn't do it for myself, I did it for my father. Yeah. And then when it burned down, it wasn't. I didn't start the fire. I was trying to extinguish the fire. But when I saw that it was hopeless, I said the more the better, because it's a unique opportunity to build something completely new. But I never tried to destroy the old place. I kept away from it.
The German hotel trade has a problem, according to the report.
Yeah, it's true.
It's true.
It's true. But not necessarily just because of Austria and Switzerland. They also have a problem, which is not mentioned in the report.
We're talking globally suddenly.
Everybody has a problem. And in Asia, you also have a problem. In Asia, you have lots of people, but not maybe you don't have the qualification or the productivity or the efficiency. So it's difficult anywhere in the world.
But these, as I understand it, are by and large, a lot of the better qualified young German people working in your trade are being tempted across the border.
Yeah, not necessarily only Austria, but even further, UK. A lot of people, a lot of Poles go to UK. Yeah. Germany has been pretty much closed shop for a long time, and they need to change the mentality and the culture to receive immigrants and actively work to get immigration. But they can't just complain at people leaving Germany. They have to get new people coming to Germany also. And I think moving around is good for everybody. I mean, it's good for Austria if they get Germans, but also for Switzerland. But we also hire Swiss. We also have Austrians working for us. It goes both ways. But it really depends on the quality of the hotel. If you're a really good hotel, which can compete internationally, which we don't have a difficulty. We ranked in the top league worldwide, so we have no problem getting staff. But I think for other hotels, it's a huge problem. It will become an even bigger problem because of the demographics of Germany.
We've got to come back to the fundamental thing that we're talking around a little bit today. I mean, you do, in many ways, you might not run your hotel on a day-to-day basis, but you influence the kind of hotel that you have created. Yeah,
I try to make it as pleasant as possible for me, and it has to be as international as possible. Yeah. So I want to have as many staff from around the world as possible, and I'm trying to fight for the legal, change the legal constraints in Germany so that it will be easier for us to hire people from China and from India and from Indonesia, which currently we can't.
It's interesting. I mean, I stay in a lot of hotels, sort of business-wise, I suppose you could say, but I've also just been on my annual family holiday. And it's interesting that I stayed in a lot of hotels, and there was one especially where I thought, this is the kind of hotel that I really love staying at. And there was a very good reason for that the people were so, you could sense that they were hotel people. They weren't employees of a hotel.
Yes.
Yeah. Are they the kind of people you look for?
We don't look for it, but that's the kind of people we have. It's not, you're not really looking. It's, of course, when people apply for the job, you see what kind of personality. Does he want to be a host? Does he love to be in this job? Does he have a passion for it? And but at the same time, we don't want the typical hotel staff. We don't like people to be sort of employees, as you were saying. Yeah. But to leave a lot of space for the individuality of these people as well. Yeah. So we don't try to standardize, we try to individualize as much as we can, and that's also true for the staff. So there's an extreme amount of freedom. It's quite opposite of what most hotels would run their operation. So
the people working for you, they can go about their daily work in a sort of a self-defined sort of
Since
way.
I'm not a hotelier, I can't really tell them what to do, so I have somebody else who does it, but also I give him the freedom. I give everybody the freedom. So if anything is what I'm doing is I'm trying to give as much freedom as possible, and that people can be, individually appreciated, and then they can also appreciate the guest and their individuality. I think it's a two-way street. And if you leave out the one side, it's much harder to get staff because they don't want to be squeezed into something. Yeah. At the same time, you get much better quality of service because it's more a human relationship between the guest and the staff.
A quick word on the following. There are many who say, I mean, you've heard this more often probably than I have even. There are many who say that Germany hasn't always enjoyed the best reputation for, as a service country.
Yeah, I think it's true that the image is still there, but the reality is different. I think the German.
Changing.
Yeah, we show that we've been ranked #1 in the world by a Swiss ranking, which is the most important in the world. And we show that we can be as good as any hotel in Asia or in America or whatever, even better. The quality is there, the efficiency is there, the friendliness, it's all there. The spectacular country, spectacular nature, culture, everything what you can imagine. But it will take time to change the image. I think the main thing is to open up to become more international. And then the Germans will start to appreciate their own country even more. The real reason is not that foreigners are not appreciating Germany. We have millions of foreigners coming. But the Germans themselves are not appreciating it as much. But this is mainly true for the resort hotel business. The city hotel business has no problem. Germany is very successful.
It's booming.
It's booming,
Okay. If there's already a problem finding trained and qualified staff, it could get even worse in the future because of Germany's birth rate, which most commentators agree is worryingly low. We've got this report.
Astrid Schulte is both a mother and business executive. She has 3 daughters at home and is CEO of a maternity wear fashion label. But as a woman with both a family and a career, she's an exception to the rule in Germany.
I've also worked for French companies. There, if you're pregnant, it's completely normal for them to say, fine, how do you want to do things? In Germany, they still say, so you're pregnant. One child is okay, but do you want another?
The 5 women who founded the company have a total of 16 children. And it's a very family-friendly employer. The CEO herself understands the problems they have to face. But having children is a hurdle fewer and fewer couples in Germany want to deal with. One breadwinner drops out just when their expenses are growing. Usually it's the women who stay at home. That deters many would-be mothers.
We notice in our immediate circle of friends that people postpone the decision to have children until they're professionally secure. It's possible to work if you're a mother, but it's not possible to have a professional career.
So what's going wrong in Germany? Juggling a career and family simply doesn't work in many women's experience. Women end up with the lion's share of the childcare and housework, and money becomes scarcer.
I work for the railway and earn full wages, but I still can't make ends meet.
A second child is a luxury. I'm happy with one, so I won't have another.
Fewer children now will mean fewer parents in the future, and then the number of children will dwindle even further. Nowadays, it already takes 2 workers to support every pensioner.
In the first half of this century, 10 million more people will get into the retirement boat, and the number rowing the boat, that is, paying into pensions, will shrink by 16 million, despite immigration.
Children are already a minority in Germany, and the older we get, the fewer children there will be.
You were just saying that a couple of guests from your hotel were in the report there, popping up. Yeah?
Intellectuals and mothers. With kids.
Well, intellectuals and mothers, yeah. And I mean, that's what it's about. It's about it's about mothers. It's about their role in German society. It's about the low birth rate.
Exactly.
You're nodding.
Yes.
You understand the problem? Did the report get it right?
Of course. Yeah? You got it right, yeah. I was fighting for the green card 10 years ago. Actually, I started almost 20 years ago to fight for it. And I got it eventually into the legislation because of computer specialists. That was my interest at the time. Yeah. I was shocked that Germany wouldn't allow me to hire people from around the world. Yeah. I thought they were a capitalistic country, but they were an ideological country. They didn't they idealized the homogeneous collective.
Okay, but the problem in the report is that women are trying to balance family and career.
But that's Western Europe. That's even in Israel. You have that all over. It's not just Germany. In some places you have it worse than Germany, in some a little better. But generally, demographics is a huge problem. Except America, everybody has a demographic problem. And I said Germany has to become civilizationally attractive for the best immigrants around the world. Yeah. But they were not doing that. They were trying to keep them away. Yeah. And if you were coming as an asylum seeker, you weren't allowed to work. Now they're changing that.
So you're talking about the general demographic picture that...
and the image that Germany presented to the world, it says we don't want anybody. We close shop, except in soccer we take you, but only as long as you hit goals, otherwise we get kicked out. So it was not a very friendly image that Germany was
It's changing, though.
It's changing completely.
It's changing quite rapidly.
It's changing also because the soccer team helps a lot, and also it changes in many aspects in life, and Germany's changing dramatically, yes. And they realize that they need it. And now the Agency of Work in Germany, they have a new slogan, say, make it in Germany. They even use English, can you imagine? The German government office is using an English slogan to attract immigrants from around the world.
That's okay.
And so I convinced them, says, if you want to get them, you also have to make sure that the kitchen is there, the food is there for them. You need Chinese food, you need Indian food, you need more of these people coming as well. So hospitality, that's where it all starts. You can't be open to the world without an open hospitality.
And being a man of ideas and a man with a political agenda, are you doing anything for your female employees to help them there'll be women working for you who will get pregnant.
We don't really help them. I don't help them either. Nobody helps them. But somehow it's a very fertile hotel ground. I think we have at least 20 mothers pregnant or just getting babies and vacation. Their husbands as well. It's dramatic. And unfortunately, financially, it doesn't cost the company too much, But we have to keep the positions open for years to come. Yeah. They decide after 3 years they want another 3 years because you always have the position is secure. And I wonder what will happen when they all at the same time decide they want to come back to work and we don't have the job. So then we have to let other people let go in order to make space for them to come back. But I'm very much for it.
Okay. You live in luxury.
Depends what you describe as luxury. For me, the biggest luxury would be to live in a cave in India.
I was tricking you a little bit.
Yes.
I was being unfair because in the report, one of the women in the report said a second child is luxury.
Absolutely.
You have 6 children.
6 children, yes.
Yeah. Abject luxury.
I think that's luxury. You're right. That's really luxury.
Okay. They presumably wouldn't want to live in the cave in India, not all of them.
Some of them might appreciate it too.
Okay. He's mentioned India again, or already at least. There's a young man. One way that Dietmar Müller-Elmau broke away from the huge shadow cast by the hotel where he was born was to travel to India, where he became fascinated by the culture and the spirituality. These days, there's plenty of that culture and the spirituality right here in Germany, even in the Black Forest.
Sri Sri Ravi Shankar is from India and he's allowed to use the honorary title Yoga Siromani, which means jewel in the crown of yoga. Considered an internationally esteemed spiritual leader, he's been called one of the most influential living Indians. Many world leaders have sought his advice, but he remains modest about what he does.
Yoga, some breathing exercises and skills, how to manage our emotions, our mind,
He's based at the European Centre of his Art of Living Foundation here in Bad Antofagast. It's a spa town in a small valley in the Black Forest. The foundation is a largely volunteer-based NGO devoted to creating what it calls a stress-free, violence-free society. It has special consultant status with the UN's Economic and Social Council. The guru and his foundation are now active in 150 countries. The yoga courses, costing €150 and more, have been booked by millions of people. The foundation says the money goes to international humanitarian projects.
Hallo, wie geht es dir?
Mayor Thomas Grieser likes to drop by when the guru is in the Black Forest. They've known each other for a long time now. The community's spa was famous in the 19th century, but in the 1990s it fell into disrepair, until the guru came, bought the spa and saved the old building, even though the newcomers were viewed sceptically at first.
At first, the local people were reserved, as they are here in the valley. But the presence and friendliness that greeted them soon won them over. Now we cooperate well.
In the town of Oppenau, they often talk about the gurus up there. Many people don't really know what goes on in the old spa, but they're glad it's filled with life again.
When the guru comes, all the rooms in the entire district are booked up. He brings up to 1,000 people with him.
The building was a ruin. They really made something out of it.
Religion doesn't play a role here. Whether Christian, Muslim, Hindu or Buddhist, everyone here is looking for inner peace. And the yoga students coming from all over the world make for a cosmopolitan atmosphere in this corner of the Black Forest.
Dietmar Müller-Elmau, at the beginning of the show, I put some words into your mouth. I took a little bit of a liberty and I said that you are among the many people here in Germany who believe that yoga is a good way to sort of combat stress.
No,
did I go too far? Was I fair to you?
Way too far.
So,
I have no opinion on it.
You have no opinion?
I think we do a lot of yoga. There's a lot of yoga in Schloss Elmau, but completely secularized. I don't like any dogmatic approach to anything. I myself...
But here too, the guru said it's not about religion, it's a breathing exercise.
Of course, that's what generally, Asians wouldn't talk about religion the way that Europeans would talk about. The Buddhists, there is no religion in that sense. They just don't see it as a religion. But I personally don't do it. I'm not interested in it either. But I appreciate people who want to do it. But as long as they leave me alone, I don't have to do it. We have Elmau is a great yoga retreat. We've got great teachers. We've got many different teachers from all over the world. There's many retreats over the year, and we have one teacher full time. He's very busy. He's fantastic. People love him. But it has no ideological background. It's just sort of part of the spa program of Schloss Elmau.
It's interesting, though, because it is all about breathing and breathing exercises. And one book that had a great influence on you when you were a youngster, really a very young boy, was a book called The Breath, you told me earlier. Yeah.
The concept of the title was The Breath of India, the Atem Indians. And I was surprised that somebody could say a country has a breath. How could you smell it? And so I eventually traveled to India. I wanted to smell it. I didn't go there because of spiritual reasons or whatever. I wanted to understand the culture. I wanted to know where the Western culture comes from. So I was traveling by car through all the countries there, and I was very fascinated. But what I liked most about India was the culture of individualism and freedom, individual freedom. That was most impressive. Not that I had no religion. I wasn't looking for a religion. I wanted to get away from religion, and they thought this was great. And that was the only place in the world where I found that they liked this kind of concept of getting away from religion is also good. So that's why I felt comfortable in India, because they would accept this incredible variety and diversity of people and opinions and ideas. It's quite different than what most people would go to India for.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. I'm listening to you and I'm still thinking about your grandfather. I don't know why. A comment I wrote down earlier, and I couldn't find it just now, but I know there was a woman who wrote in Israel's Haaretz newspaper about having stayed at your hotel. And she said that she felt that you, with some of the symposiums and the things that you've been organising, because you're saying you're doing this all for yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. She said she felt that you were on a mission of atonement.
Well, that some people would say that, but I had nothing to atone for because I hadn't done anything.
Well, maybe you do, without almost even knowing it.
Yeah, no. I think it's different. It's trying to understand. It's trying to understand to change politics, because I'm more concerned about today's politics than politics of 60 years ago. But I'm trying to understand why did the Germans make the wrong decisions, and are they still do they still have the wrong ideals and orientation? And I still think they still have a lot of problems, and you can see it currently in the discussion about the euro. I think there's still a lot of wrong concepts that haunt German politics, and they haven't really been dealt with. And the reason why they haven't been dealt with, because even the historical analysis of the Holocaust and everything that went wrong in German history was sort of tainted by these old ideals, the Zivilisationskritik, the critic of civilization, and this sort of opposition to the West, to the normative project of the West. And I wanted to Germany be fully part of the West, also with mind and heart, not just because they lost the war and they were conquered by the Americans or occupied by the Americans or whatever, but by being convinced that this is the best way for the people to live.
Interesting thoughts. People at home will have been very happy to hear that.
Yeah.
But you've missed out on our traditional Talking Germany quiz at the end of the show. Yeah, it's our loss, I think, but it's been fascinating stuff. That is your lot with the intellectual among Germany's leading hotel managers. It's okay if I call you an intellectual, I think, yeah? Dietmar Müller-Elmau, yeah? He's been a great guest, that is for sure. And if you've enjoyed his company as much as I have, come back next week. Until then, bye-bye. Tschüss.